Welcome to my channel, and in today's video we'll be answering the question, what's a UI policy in ServiceNow? Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to answer the question, what is a UI policy? And in order to do that, we're going to answer a few more questions along the way. And of course, we're going to look at the form and have a little bit of a play with the UI policy. But before we get too far into it, I just want to say a massive thank you to anyone that's subscribed to the channel so far. It makes a huge difference and is very much appreciated. If you're new here and haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Smash the bell icon so you get notified of videos when I upload a new one, and give it a thumbs up. Help those YouTube algorithms with the big thumbs up and a like and a share. Anyway, let's crack on. So on the agenda we have, of course, what is a UI policy? We'll answer why do we use them? When do they apply? What kind of advanced capability can we use in UI policies? Do we have access to classes? Now, I mentioned classes on a previous video I did around client scripts, answering the question, what is a client script? Annoying pop-up thing up the top here. I'll put one, you can go and have a look. But do we have access to classes in UI policies? I don't know, let's see. And then we'll go and look at the form itself. Okay. So what is a UI policy? So UI policies are conditional, no low-code client-side configuration that will operate on the user's browser and that can dynamically change the behavior of a form, again, on the user's browser. That sounds obvious, actually, now I've said it. But it's important to note that this is client-side configuration. So as with client scripts, the clues in the name, UI policies are also client-side. Now, there is some fors and against on which you should use and in what scenarios and why. That's for another video. This is to answer the question of what they are and give you a bit of an overview. But UI policies, they're meant to be low-code. They're very much configuration based and conditional. There is an element or options that you can do some more advanced stuff with them by doing some scripting. We'll get onto that. But there we go. And why do we use them? So what's the predominant use for a UI policy? Well, we'd use them really to make a field or fields read-only or not. We'd use them to make a field, again, or fields mandatory or not. And we can use them to make a field, or again, or fields, I perhaps should have just changed the slide, shouldn't I? Field or many fields visible or not on the form. Now, all these can happen under, as I said before, certain conditions. Okay? These are the three predominant uses you would look to do within a UI policy. You can also do things like clear a field value as well, which is kind of something recent. I think it happened a few versions back, but it allows you to clear field values. But there we go. Why do we use them? If you need to make a field read-only on a form, if you need to make a field mandatory on a form, or if you need to make a field visible on a form, UI policies is definitely something to consider. And when do they apply? Well, they apply when specified conditions are met. And we'll see this on the form. So you've got very conditional logic. So this is when they'll apply. They can be applied to specific form views. As I've mentioned before with client scripts, is that you can run them on global or you can run them on a specific form view. They can run when a form loads or even when the form changes or both. And we'll see this. Logic can be reversed. So we can say if the conditions that we met, so let's say if state is new, then make the short description field mandatory. But we could say the reverse of that. Therefore, if state is not new, then make short description non-mandatory. Okay, and we'll show you that in a minute. And what advanced capability do we have to play with? Well, some of you will be pleased to know that, yes, we do have access to play with some script here. So, like if we think about client scripts, the predominant use, well, the clue's in the name there, isn't it? Is yes, we can script in client scripts. UI policies are very much configuration low code. You've got your predefined outcomes. You've got your making fields read only, mandatory, visible. They're all predefined. But we do have advanced capability that allows us to be able to do some more complex behavior with scripting. And examples of that might be you want to show or hide a form section or add a message on a screen, just like you could with a client script. Again, similar to client scripts, we can select different UI types. So we can say, I want this to run only on the desktop version or the mobile and service portal interface. Or I want to run on all of them, desktop and mobile service portal UI. And we have two different script options. And again, we'll see this when we look at the form. But we can execute a script if the conditions that we've stipulated are true. But likewise, we can execute a different script if the conditions evaluate to false. Okay, so we have a bit more capability that we can play with here as well on UI scripts. Okay, so if we have this advanced capability and we've got access to scripts, what classes do we have access to? Is it the same as client scripts? Can we do the same kind of things? The answer is yes, we do have access to the same classes. So here I've put the two that we'll commonly see. So we've got access to gform, guser. There are others, but these are the two that you're most commonly seen. But I guess the point is, whatever classes we've got access to in client script, we also have access to them in the scripts in UI policies. And it's important just to realize that these two configuration artifacts are client side. So, of course, we have the access to the same client classes. And that's important to remember. And that's definitely something, a tip I would think about for admin exams, perhaps. Think about it. This is your client side scripting. Yes, you have access to the same classes, same methods. Okay, so let's take a look at how we navigate to UI policies and see what the form's like. So if we go to all, this is San Diego version. Again, I'll put an annoying kind of pop-up so you can see my videos on that if you want to go and check them out. Go to UI policies. Doing this will be the same in other versions, by the way. So we just look at UI policies. And we will load the list of out-of-the-box UI policies. There's quite a few. 2,171 in a San Diego standard instance. So if you wanted to see what some of the capability is, I mean, there's lots to go and look at. And that's a good point to make, actually, is more often than not, if you're trying to write a new UI policy or a client script, and sometimes I don't know, you might find it a bit tricky, you're not getting the outcome that you want. If you know the general idea of what you want to achieve, more often than not, you'll find something in the out-the-box scripts that you can go and refer to or make sense of to kind of steal bits of what they've done in out-the-box instances. Right, let's have a look at the form. So if we go to new. Okay, and here's the form. So as you can see here, this is the form for a new UI policy, so we can go ahead and create one. So we've got a table. We've got a selection of the tables here. So I don't know, let's select incident. I use that for everything. Short description. Again, with any scripts or any configuration that you're doing ServiceNow, I'd ensure that when you put short descriptions, have some consistency, perhaps a platform standard for the format or the layout. Just make sure they make sense. The admin or yourself, many months or even years later, will appreciate it. Having said that, I'm just going to put up a test. We've got our active flag application. That's the scope that we're in. At the moment, I'm in global. The one thing I'm going to point out about this section here is This never has, we've got the short description field, but there is a description field. And what I would say, if it was my instance, the first thing I like to do is add the description field to the details section of all the script forms. So, for example, here I'd add it. If it's not in business rules, I'd add it. I believe it is there anyway. But I add that so I can write a longer description on all my scripts, and it just sets a kind of a good precedent going forward. When to apply. So we mentioned these before. So we've got conditions. So we can say when active is true, and we can say when state, I don't know, is no. One thing I want to just point out here is client scripts you can do on change, right? So state changes to. UI policy, you can't do that. So just take note of that. So state, there's nothing that tells me state changes to or changes from. Okay, so just, again, that's just something to bear in mind. Global, again, this is similar to client scripts. If we don't tick global, we can choose to run this UI policy on a specific view of the form on the table that we've selected. For example, incident table. This is global, so I'll run on all views. If we have this on load, this means this UI policy will run when the form loads. So it'll just check this condition every time the form loads. Reverse if false. So if we untick this, the actions that we're going to apply in a second will only be relevant for when the conditions are met. If we do that, it'll be the reverse of those actions. So we'll leave reverse if false on there for a second. And inherit, again, similar to client scripts. It means if we choose to create or extend a table and create a table, and extend it from incident, we'll call it incident test, and we chose to inherit it, it means any tables that are extended from that will inherit the scripts as well that have got that flag on. Okay. Fancy stuff. Right. So we now move over to script. This is about the advanced capability we have. We can run scripts. So when I select that, we then get some other options. So we can use, or we can select which UI type to apply this logic to. Again, very similar. We're seeing a pattern here. Similarities with client scripts. We can choose the UI type. Okay. We can, again, I've mentioned this before, run a script when the conditions evaluate to true or false. So perhaps we might want to put an alert message in that says yay, and one in false that says nay. I don't know. Okay. So we were not going to go too advanced. Let's save that. So we've done our when to apply. So we've created our UI policy. We've said under what conditions are we going to apply this policy? Now what? So what does that mean? So then what we have is some UI policy actions. And in here, we can select the field name that we want the action to take to be on. So let's say perhaps the short description. So we're in the UI policy. It's on this table. So on the short description, I want it to be mandatory. And perhaps you wanted it to be visible. Maybe you want to hide the short description. No, I can't think you ever would, but maybe you do. Or you wanted it to be read only. Now, you've got to think about this really. So why would you make something mandatory and read only at the same time? You laugh. I've seen it happen, right? But we've also got to be careful of what we select here. But I'm going to leave this as read only for, I'm going to leave read only as leave alone. And there's a reason why I'm saying that. Leave alone sounds a bit odd, but it comes there's a purpose. So let's just submit. And of course, sorry, you can clear the field value as well. Okay, so that's it, interesting. Let's look at this. So as we scroll down, when active is true and state is new, The short description is to be mandatory. Okay. Now, what that will mean, because I've selected reverse if false, if active is not true and the state is not new, then mandatory will be the reverse. And the reverse of true is false. Now, that's why it's important that sometimes when we use leave alone, because leave alone really does nothing, right? The reverse of leave alone is nothing, right? So we just have to be careful there that when we select reverse if false, what we've done here, visible, mandatory, read only, true or false, it'll be the reverse. So if we've selected read only true, for example, the reverse would be it'd be false. Okay, so it'd be editable. So just something to be bearing in mind there. One other thing, I'm glad this happened actually. So if I go back into this, we can see a big red box around short description. So if we click on that, what that tells me is that UI policy action, that field has a conflicting UI policy that is running on the same table at the same time. And what we mean by that is it's at the same order. So when you do that, and again, I see this time and time again where you've got UI policies and people haven't, it appears like they haven't gone in to go and check and just check for those conflicts, right? So I'd urge you to do it. If you see in red, previous version San Diego, it'll be a red dot. You go in and it's at the top here. It tells you which policies are conflicting. So test the one we've created and make fields read only on close. Let's have a look at that. These are UI policies that are running on the table in the same order. So all we would perhaps do, again, this is a good one. Got conditions there. Got loads of policy actions there. But all we would do to resolve this, we would simply change the order. Okay. So again, so what we'd need to do is, as I mentioned before, that you can add the description field to the details. You could also add the order. But what you can do is if you go to UI policies, we can add the order. Here you go, look. The order field to the list view. They'll all default to 100. So we can change that. Don't copy me on this. I'm just changing it to show you how it resolves it. But you need to think about the order in which the UI policies will run. Okay. Because you may be in a situation where you'll set a field read only and then slightly later in the order, you might make it not read only, and you don't want to do that. So just be conscious that UI policies run in a certain order, just like every other script really, and have a look for those conflicts. Okay, so if we now go back into our UI policy, we've now removed our red error, so we know there's no conflicts. Okay, absolutely worth checking those out. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video and a brief explanation or a rundown of what a UI policy is. We even went into a little bit of a demo, actually. I didn't really mean to, but hey, we've got there, and I hope it's been of some use. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. It does make a massive difference. Give the video a thumbs up. And yeah, I hope to see you next time. Okay, take care.